Hi everybody, this is the Snowday Class. This is an experiment to see whether or not I can run this class as a Snowday class and not have to try to find some way to replace the class with um, another day meeting which not everybody can go to or miss the material. So this will be up on the web somehow, I'm not sure how. Anyway, this is the class. Today's class is on the uses of discourse. The next class, which you'll probably be seeing before you see this class, is going to be the class with on an example of a discourse analysis by a guest speaker. And this class is supposed to be preceding that class, so everything's a little bit discombobulated. But anyway, so here's the class. I'll try to keep it fairly short because you can always go back and see things. And you can ask questions. I think if I can get this up on YouTube, you can ask questions in the comments. If not, I'll probably find another way that maybe it'll go up on Blackboard. I'm not sure how, but we'll see what's going on. Okay, the first type of discourse analysis that I wanted to explain today is called critical discourse analysis. And you can read the statement here. This is a statement, an explanation of critical sense in the sense of discourse analysis, which was done by one of the main researchers in the area, whose name was Ruth Wodak. Ruth Wodak is Austrian, and she works in England, and she's a really entertaining speaker. And she's done a lot of work on uncovering kinds of European racism and anti-Semitism in discourse, and so the critical, in a sense, if you look at it, meaning this coming from a skeptical associations with towards different forms of discourse that you might see, for example, in the popular press. The thing about it is, what makes racist discourse particularly interesting is that it's not nobody wants to be labeled a racist. So often they'll go to great lengths to cover it up and communicate racist messages in a sense without overtly saying those messages. In this case, we have you can, if you clicked on her link there, that will take you to some work by her. Now we're going to do an easy example. Actually, this kind of contradicts what I just said about nobody wanting to be a racist, but not wanting to be considered a racist. But there's another approach to that, which is even more extreme. So the first idea that we have in the motivation for what happens sometimes with discourse is when you have a discourse such as racist discourse. You could think also of other types of discourse that tend not to be well received. When people hear it, they avoid it. They don't want to be associated with it. So this can be associated. This could happen with various forms of discourse. So it becomes stigmatized. To a certain extent, liberalism suffered from the same thing. Back in the 1990s, a little bit more, people would avoid saying things that are considered stereotypically liberal. You can get the same thing with political correctness, that certain statements sort of set people off. Oh, that's just politically correct, and they don't pay any attention anymore to the content once they've heard what the people are saying. So it's not only true with things that maybe deserve to be seen as outside the boundaries, but it can also be the case that you'll get someone who says something that needs to be associated with a different way, a different form of presentation. Now, when this happens, the ideas that are trying to be expressed in the discourse can be dragged down too. Or maybe the ideas are dragging down the discourse. Or maybe the people see it as, no, it's not the ideas are wrong, it's just we're not expressing it in the right way. So what they try to do is they rebrand themselves. They repackage those ideas in another type of discourse. We'll see what I mean by that in a second. This is the case of racism. Again, there are other cases, and if we were together in class, I would ask you to come up with different cases of this. But since we're not, I'll give you one. For example, fundamentalists often have trouble selling their ideas, and they don't want to be seen as so extreme. And what they'll do is they'll avoid, and I said liberals earlier sometimes. So we have racist ideas get associated with hate speech, for example. The association would be also with the types of institutions or organizations that may be seen as violent. And there are some racists who want their ideas to get out, and they would see that these associations are not helping the cause, so to speak. So what they've done is to package racist ideas, that in this case whites, but it could in principle be any race, but this history being what it is, white people are superior to other races. And what they'll do is they try to make it sound intellectual. And here's an example. You have this, what I'm going to ask you to do is read this. Well, I'll read it aloud actually. What we call race realism is what was considered traditional common sense until perhaps the 1950s. It's a body of views that was so taken for granted it had no name, but it can be summarized as follows: that race is an important aspect of individual and group identity, that different races build different societies that reflect their natures, and it is entirely normal for whites, or for any people of any other race, to want to be the majority race in their own homeland. If whites permit themselves to become a minority population, they will lose their civilization, their heritage, and even their existence as a distinct people. All other groups take it for granted that they have a right to speak out in their own interests. Only whites have lost this conviction. And if you click on this link, you'll get to the original source of this, which is from a website organized by this organization. Well, it's really one person behind it, called American Renaissance. Now, if you notice here, this is, if you ignore the content of it, just the form, the types of language it's used, the way it's expressed, it's not hateful, right? There's nothing that says, I dislike anybody else, or I'm better, or I should dominate exactly because, I hate them. It's nothing hateful in there, on the surface anyway. But if we look a little bit more closely, what we see is certain appeals, certain expressions that may need a little unpackaging. So in the first case, you have in the purple here, purple box, you have what essentially is a expression of traditional explanation of what is meant by traditional common sense. What's traditional common sense tells the reader that it's racism is a rational position to take, whatever you might have heard. It's rational in the sense of the people, too. I didn't really put that in there, but rational not in an intellectually complicated way, but normal, acceptable. And furthermore, that there's an appeal also, kind of a little bit more subtle, to a previous time in what we might call the age or the good old days myth. That in the past, before the 1960s, people felt that this was the way everybody was. That everyone was a racist before then. This was normal, and those were the good old days before we had all these troubles and violent times that we've had since the 1960s. If we go a little further along there, in the green, you see. You start getting a set of assertions, of ideas.